Okay, this is going to be my weirdest video ever. Going to seem kind of off the subject, but it's not. So, this is my furnace. And the reason why I'm showing it to you is because it stopped working. It was doing this intermittent turning on and off thing that I recognized from, going to this house for 14 years, and I battled this furnace for a long time before I figured out how to, take care of it, how to maintain it and service it, because I kept calling, the plumbing companies, the plumbing and furnace companies, and heating and plumbing. There you go, heating and plumbing companies, and it's kind of hit or miss whether you're going to get. Anyway, when they would come, I would make them tell me everything that they were doing, and then YouTube is amazing because there's a bunch of people that post videos about how to fix things and do things. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that, but and so I started servicing the furnace on my own. But after I fell off the back of that truck, and I couldn't take things apart and put them back together anymore. In fact, I had a bunch of vacuum cleaners taken apart before I fell, and I couldn't put them back. I had been cleaning them, and I'd get them off Craigslist and I'd clean them, and I meant to sell them, but I usually ended up giving them away. But anyway, the point is, I had a whole bunch of them taken apart, and I eventually had to just donate all the pieces and parts to a local vacuum cleaner service place, because for the longest time I couldn't do anything like that. I would get really rattled, and I think it's a combination of when I had the head injury, and also just the damage that our central nervous system takes when we are in a position where we are highly stressed and maybe even terrified at times, and unable to do anything about it, unable to leave or fight back. And that was certainly my situation for a long time, for years, trying to keep drama away from my kids. And I didn't know at the time how devastating that is to your nervous system. And when I finally managed to extricate myself from that situation, I was shocky, like I'd been punched too many times, and I did a bunch of research, and it was very grim, because it seems as if the prevailing wisdom amongst those in the know, although it hasn't really trickled down yet, which is part of the reason why I'm making this video, is because things like ALS, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, the autoimmune disorders, and things like that, and especially, so for me, Alzheimer's and early dementia were a very real fear, because of I've had 4 concussions, and way too much time spent in that state of high stress, with too much cortisol and all those other chemicals that were coursing through my body. And all those experiences do very real damage, and that's part of the reason why I'm really determined to make these videos, despite the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm scared to death, actually, to be honest, to say some of these things, because all my life the thing has been not wanting to be crazy. My mom was agoraphobic and in and out. She was in a mental institution when I was young, and so I was kind of a bugaboo in my family, being crazy. And so we really held our emotions, not just inside our vest, but we just buried them. And I think that I'm not even remotely alone. But the thing is when we push our emotions down inside, for whatever reason, we have a million different reasons. For me, it's always been about kids, trying to not scare kids or upset them, and then it just became a habit. And but the thing is that you have to think about it. Doesn't just evaporate; it goes inside, and it does damage inside. And so when I finally let myself be angry for a few minutes, here and there, and I had a lot of rage, and I had a lot of anger, and I had a lot of bitterness. And at the time it felt really justified, and it was good to get it out, but it was necessary to get it out because inside it was making me sick. It was tearing up my insides, and it was just toxifying me, it was just making me sick. And I had ulcers, and so what I realized was that that I had done this thing that I think that we all do, where we fall or we stumble, or the world tells us that there's something wrong with us, or that we're inadequate, or we are too much. In my case, I just always felt like I was too much. I've always felt like I was too intense and too demonstrative, too emotional, too sensitive. I've always been a sort of, well, not sort of, a very, like a bleeding heart. I just have a very hard time with, pain, anybody's pain, and especially kids, but anybody, and people being left out, and people being sad, and all that kind of thing. But the thing is that that's because that's what I came into this world to express, was that compassion. I felt all that compassion, but instead of using it, because I didn't know how, and I didn't thrive as a child as much as, I needed to, in order to bring that out into the world in a healthy, productive, useful way. And so instead what I did was I swallowed it, and it made me bitter, for one thing, because I knew that I was a good person. I knew that I had a good heart, and I knew that I had tried to do all kinds of things, through my life to show that and to express that. But they turned toxic because I hadn't healed myself, and that's just what happens. We until we understand ourselves, we don't understand anything. And if you don't understand the way that a human being works, the way that you work, the way that the systems, that we're comprised of and that we function in, and if you don't understand how you yourself work, because once you understand how you work, you just extrapolate that out, and you understand how everything works, is the odd thing, the thing that nobody tells you. But all of a sudden it's like this understanding just kind of fills you up, where you can see how if you just expand this idea, then it explains, the bigger picture. And that's how I came to see my place in the bigger picture, and how important it was that I bring out what was great inside me, because that was what I was born with. I didn't ask to be born with extra compassion, but I had it, and when I didn't use it, it made me sick, and that's just what happens. And that's I've heard it attributed, I've heard it credited to Jesus and Buddha and St. Thomas and St. Michael, a whole bunch. So I don't know who said it, but basically it's if you bring forth what is within you, it will serve you. If you fail to bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. And I'm sure I butchered that, but the point is that that's just what happens. It goes inside and it becomes malignant. And so all I'm trying to say is that it's the world that is broken right now. It's not you, and it's not me. And if you have a good heart and you can't figure out how to express what's inside of you, you can very easily become bitter and angry and hurt, and but we don't show our hurt. So and there are so many ways that we can just destroy ourselves, and that's what we do. Instead of trying to accept ourselves, and give ourselves credit for what we have done and how far we have come, because most of us are dealing with very heavy loads. And I think we don't look at how much we have shouldered. If you've lived through a lot of toxicity or a lot of trauma or a lot of pain or sorrow or loss, and that's most of us, but some of us, have really had just way too many shocks, or way too much trauma, or way too little love, or way too little peace or, support, just encouragement, or purpose, and so when I realized that I was making it out of that darkness, when I started to see the light, I very quickly realized that that I was gonna pay it forward, of course, because my sanity and my life were saved by people who generously shared their experiences and also their wisdom, and so there's no way that I'm gonna not pay that forward, because that's just, why would you do that? I mean, so I've been thinking the entire time of like every step, just just stop thinking about this moment and think about how you're going to use this experience to help somebody else. And I'm really grateful that those thoughts came into my head, because I didn't solicit them. I didn't say, please give me perspective. It just was, it came into my head, and I'm really grateful that I had that thought, that it came from wherever it came. I think it's grace, but and so for a year or so, everything I've been doing thinking that I would be able to tell yet one more person that they could overcome whatever they were dealing with, and I could say that with some authority, because it's like as soon as I told the universe that it could do its worst, but I was not ever going to kill myself, like my parents had. I think that the universe saw that as a challenge, because it just like started throwing stuff at me, and it's kind of funny actually. There were times when I was like, okay, I'm sorry, and there's no end to our hubris. That's the other thing that's crazy, is that no matter how humble you get, you still have hubris, you still have blind spots and biases, and I keep having these moments where I go, oh, like Homer Simpson, dope, where I go, oh God, and that's why I make these videos, because I don't know what all I can do, but I know that I have to try to do something to share what I know saved me, what I know is saving me every day, because there are so many people that are hurting in the same way that I was hurting, and there are so many people that think that they're broken and damaged, and there are people who don't know it, but they are right now setting themselves up for later health challenges that take a lot of people out, and I think that I should probably either be crazy or dead, and I mean really crazy, because I was so scattered, my mind was so fractured and fragmented that I was a hot mess. I couldn't organize my thoughts, and I couldn't function. If I took something apart, I couldn't put it back together. I would lose, no matter how hard I tried, it's like I'd lose the pieces, and then it became this self-fulfilling prophecy, and the only way that I got out of it was that there were people that were out there in the darkness somewhere that were saying, okay, but keep going and you can do this. And so I just really want to be that light for somebody else, the way that there was a light for me. And I think that if we, each of us, just try to do that the best way that we know how, little by little, we will stop hurting, and we'll stop hurting each other, and we really can shift the energy in the human population. We can shift it to one of love. It wouldn't even take that many people. 10,000 people was my rosy dream. 10,000 people who felt love and acceptance and not hope, but just belief in us as humans. Dogs believe in us, obviously, or they would have left us. So if we had 10,000 people, that's not a lot. There's 7 billion people in the world. We just could get 10,000 who just really believed every day, just never stopped believing that we could get better, and so anyway, I was able to fix my furnace, and the reason why I'm still standing here is because it's running. See, it's running. It's hot. It's doing its thing. Let's see. Let me see. You see the little blowers? I don't know if I can. Let's see. Can you see the blowers? There they are. You see this? I don't know if you can see them, but oh my God, you have no idea how many times it would get so cold in here. And when I saw those little burners, I was just the happiest woman. So close my furnace door and go to bed because it's late, I'm cold, and my son can wake up in a warm house. And it was like 59 degrees, and I'm a little bit grateful for that when that happens to me, because it keeps me, well, for one thing, I know that it's good to be cold. It's good for your body, and it's good for your brain. And I think we're all a little too soft, but including me. But also, when I'm really, really cold, like I go outside sometimes just to do this, it just reminds me yet again that there are so many people who can't get in out of the cold, and it's easy to forget. It's really easy to forget. And so, but I don't want my kid to be cold. I don't mind being cold, but I don't want my kid to be cold. So he's gonna wake up in the morning in a warm house, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was able to fix the flame sensor again, and not call a service person, and just building towards self-sufficiency, and there's nothing like it. So anyway, I love y'all. Take care.